Like, sir. Yeah.
Kane is in the building, nigga.
Alright, already the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they will see the sun? Just remember when you come to the show, it goes on. Alright, already the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they will see the sun? Just remember when you come to the show, it goes on.
Have you ever had the feeling that you was being had? Don't that shit that make you mad? They treat you like a slave, put chains all on your soul and put whips up on your back. They be lying through their teeth.
Welcome, guys, back to another episode of the Wrightway Podcast, live on the Wrightway Sports Network YouTube channel. I'm your host, CEO of the Wrightway Sports Network, Malik Wright, joined with my co-host. We got Daniel Almeida, who's wearing his TWSN mask. How's it going, Daniel?
You already know. Amazing, man. Excited for another day on the podcast.
Absolutely. We got Jake Circus. Now, before he was in Mississippi, right?
Missouri.
I'm sorry, Missouri. Now he's back.
I had the big flag behind me.
Right.
Well,
now
I had it.
Now he's back in California. How's it going, Jake?
It's going great. I'm very excited to be back and finally talking some NBA this week.
Right.
A lot of stuff happened last night, so that's very exciting.
Most exciting week in the NBA. We've got Max Marrero, the Clemson boy. What's going on, Max?
Good. I'm good. I'm happy to be back, and I'm excited for tonight's show.
And we've got a special guest. We've got Mr. James Rapien in the building of Sports Illustrated, who covers the Cincinnati Bengals, one half of the Locked On Bengals podcast. How's it going, James?
It's going well, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're super excited for this show. We're going to talk some Joe Burrow. We're going to talk some NBA action, but make sure you guys follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at the Wrightway Sports Network. Like I said, guys, we're always taking your questions. Make sure you guys go download the TWSN mobile app. Yes, we have a mobile app. And make sure you guys go check out the TWSN merchandise store as well. We got some hats as well. With that being said, guys, we're going to jump right into it. We brought James here because we want to talk about Joe Burrow, right? I mean, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be diving into these rookie quarterbacks, talking to people who cover them on a day-to-day basis. So, James, I'm going to start the first question off for you. Expectations for Joe Burrow coming into the Cincinnati Bengals organization was that he was going to be the savior of the franchise. He is going to be the savior of the franchise. And myself, I get super excited, for obviously the number one overall pick, but especially for a guy like Joe Burrow. I mean, I watched every single game of the guy, studied his entire film. I mean, I'm talking about it at a nauseating pace. What are your thoughts, right? We're talking about we're now entering into week 11 this week coming up. What are your thoughts on Joe Burrow thus far? Has he met expectations? Has he exceeded expectations? Has he been what you thought he was going to be? What are your thoughts?
He's exceeded expectations, and I had extraordinarily high expectations for him. But context matters in that question, Malik, because he's dealing with and dealt with an unprecedented offseason, and that matters. When you meet AJ Green in August, and that's the first time you physically met him. Right. And the first time he threw to T. Higgins was a couple of weeks prior to that. Tyler Boyd, the same thing in late July, throwing to him. Right. Well, there's going to be some bumps. And yet on the first day of full pads at the practice fields across from Paul Brown Stadium, Joe Burrow's making checks at the line of scrimmage. Right. And we've seen that throughout the year. We've seen that develop. We've seen him learn from his mistakes. So, yeah, they're 2-6-1. He's coming off of probably his worst game. I would say it was his worst game, and I know the Baltimore game was ugly, but I think Joe left a lot on the field against the Steelers. But it's a 9-0 Steelers, right? They're really, really good. The win was an issue for both teams. I think that impacted things. And the Bengals certainly have flaws. So I think Joe is a guy who can hide those flaws. I think he has most weeks. Wasn't able to on Sunday. But he's certainly a guy that I think the Bengals use as franchise savior. He certainly can be their franchise savior. They need to get him some help. Yeah. But after 9 weeks, I'm ready, or 9 games rather. I'm ready to say that. I think he can certainly be that guy, the guy that they drafted number 1 overall.
Okay. I appreciate that, James. I'm going to let Daniel jump in here. Daniel, I know you have some questions. Going to let the rest of these guys answer some questions.
Oh, yeah. I love scouting quarterbacks for the NFL draft. And Joe Burrow, he had very rare flaws. But in what areas have you seen the most growth throughout this season?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you've seen, and it's not like it's crazy. I think it's just the experience. You can tell that he's not going to make the same mistake twice, and you do see him make mistakes because it is, his first NFL season. It is his rookie year, but he learns from them, and so I think that's something we knew. Right, he was extremely intelligent. He worked hard. He's going to grind the tape and do all those things, but he can take that information, retain it, and then go out on the field and use it. And I think there's a big difference between winning in the classroom and being good on the whiteboard and then taking it out onto the field. And we've seen that at the NFL level. And one of the flaws was obviously his arm strength. But for the most part, we noticed it last week a little bit, but I think that was just crazy wins, along with receivers not getting separation and a bunch of things going into it. I think he's really learned from the mistakes we've seen. So that's probably the thing that he's improved on the most is if he makes a bad decision, he's not going to make it again. For example, last week, he threw the ball to Giovanni Bernard in the flat for a 4-yard loss. Malik, you probably remember this. Jake, you do too, probably. Yeah. Well, he had, I believe it was T. Higgins on a post, wide open. Mm-hmm. And I think he saw him late and instead just threw it to Gio. I bet next time he's going to hit T. And that's just an example of something that I bet he'll see on film, adjust to, and the next time he plays the Steelers, he'll make the right decision.
Right, and so many stories we heard about Joe Burrow coming out of the LSU was he was a competitive maniac. He competed with himself consistently. He, like you said, James, he doesn't make the same mistake twice. And that reminds me, I don't want to label it, I don't want to throw too many names on it, but that really reminds me of guys like Andrew Luck, guys like Peyton Manning, guys like Brady, who, like I said, held themselves to such a high standard. And that's freaking awesome. Jake, I know you got some questions for James.
Yeah, for sure. And James, we've talked before, but a lot of people right now are downplaying the fact that the Bengals 2-6-1, but specifically their two worst games have come against Pittsburgh and Baltimore, so they're 0-2 against them. My thought is that in 2011, Andy Dalton went 0-4 against Pittsburgh and Baltimore. In 2012, he went 2-2, so he improved there. But people, for whatever reason, are expecting Joe Burrow to light up Baltimore and light up Pittsburgh. What's the feeling right now? Like, is there a certain worry, like amount of worry that his two worst games have come in his two biggest games and against the two best teams in the division?
Yeah, there is worry, but not with Joe Burrow. In my eyes, there should be concern with a coaching staff, with the people that are picking the players, because Joe Burrow has up until really for most of the season outplayed Lamar Jackson, right? Joe Burrow has outplayed, he didn't last week, but he's outplayed Ben Roethlisberger for a lot of this year. He doesn't have the defense that Ben or Lamar have. He doesn't have the weapons, certainly, that Ben Roethlisberger has, and we saw that on Sunday. And he doesn't have the coach or the coaches that those guys have. And I think that's where the organization comes into play. And I'm not saying that Joe is better than Ben, by any stretch at this stage, or even Lamar. I mean, that's the winning MVP. No, and you can't, right? But he's shown a lot, and so that's the point. Is it's concerning not because of Joe, it's concerning because now I think you need to ask yourself, Zach Taylor, who's 1-9, 1-10 in the division, right? Because he's 0-4 this year, 1-10 in the AFC North since taking over as Bengals head coach. Is he the guy that's going to get Joe over the hump? Are the guys that, is Duke Tobin, the director of player personnel, who's making the draft picks and making a lot of these decisions, are they the right people to do that? And those are the questions that you might say, well, let's wait several more weeks and we can answer them, or let's see another draft. And that's fair. I'm not saying clean house because you get blown out by the Steelers, but it's a legitimate concern because who are the two teams that have been a thorn in your side for the past 2 decades when you've had capable quarterback play in Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton? Well, it's been those two teams. So you need, and now the Browns are relevant. So you can't waste time here. You got your quarterback. You got to find those other pieces, including head coach.
Absolutely. Max?
Yeah, so I kind of have two questions. So I'll give you the first one. Would you say that from what you've seen from Joe Burrow, he is a good offensive line away from being definitively the best quarterback in the division? And do you think that with a good offensive line, the Cincinnati Bengals can consistently win in that division for years to come?
Oh, that's good. I think the offensive line would certainly go along. It would be the biggest thing. But there's still questions about Zach Taylor. There are questions about him as a play caller, and questions about the receiving corps, because right now AJ Green isn't producing like the Bengals certainly hoped, like Joe certainly had hoped. And outside of Boyd and T. Higgins, you're not really getting much from the rest of that group, a group that came in arguably the strongest position group on the team. Either that or the defensive line, and both position groups right now really struggling. So I think that's the key too. You need an offseason to get weapons and add to that offensive line. But yeah, if there's one weakness on offense, it is that offensive line. And I do think that if Joe continues to trend in the right direction, which means do you have the right pieces in place, right coaches to get the most out of him, that a year from now we could be saying that in a division with a future Hall of Famer, in a division with another number one pick in Baker Mayfield, and in a division with the reigning MVP in Lamar Jackson, that Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the division. I think that is reasonable, but the Bengals have a lot of work to do to make sure he gets the most out of himself over the next year or so, and really the next decade moving forward.
Right. So James, I got a tough question for you now. Right. Well, I don't know how many questions are really tough for you, because that's one thing I love about you, brother. You're always upfront. You're always honest about things. But I got to ask you. We look at rookie quarterbacks that come into the league, right? And we don't like to make a lot of changes. Let's be honest. We don't want to see, rookie quarterbacks come into, two different coaching staffs, sort of like a Baker Mayfield situation up in Cleveland. We don't want to see that. But being someone who covers the team on a regular basis, how realistic is it potentially that the Bengals would even consider or even think about moving on from Zach Taylor after year 2?
I think it's realistic, but it depends on what happens over these final 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And you look at this weekend, for example, in Washington, Zach Taylor has yet to win a road game.
Yeah.
Like he got a pass last year, but he has yet to win a road game. And he tied the Eagles in week 3. He should have beat the Colts in week 5? Or no, week 6. The Ravens blowout loss was week 5. So week 6, when they had a 21-point lead. But you're going to have to win some, Zach. And I think that's the reality here is they're 2-6-1. They have 7 games left. It's Washington, then I think it's Miami on the road, then the Giants, then the Cowboys. Win 3 of 4. Show us that you can win back-to-back games and win a road game and handle business against a team in Washington who's very much in it for the playoffs. I get it. People think they're done, but they're in that NFC East. Yeah. They're right
Giants
there.
Too.
Giants too, and they just came off of a big win over the Eagles and then the Cowboys with Andy Dalton. So if you can't handle business against those teams with a quarterback who's like, that's the best quarterback of the group, including Tua. You have the best so you have the quarterback edge over the next month. If you're Zach Taylor, it shouldn't be crazy to say 4-0. I get it. You're not going to be perfect, and there's flaws on the team. Fine, go 3-1. And so I think that's part of it. And then, I said the final 7 games of the year. Can he win 4 of them? Can he find a way to go 4-4 in the final 8? And get to 6-9-1, and you feel pretty good about where you're headed. So I think it's all about momentum. It's all about what he does in the final 7 weeks. But if we're talking about like a 4-win team or a 3-win team, guys, then that has to be on the table, because if it's not, and I like Zach, and I'm not trying to be personal with it, but if it's not on the table, then what are you doing? You're wasting Joe Burrow's rookie contract, which that's the time when you really got to strike and take advantage of it, when you're paying him nothing.
And I think one of the hardest things, sorry to cut you. I know, Jake, I know you're about to get in here and say something real quickly, but I think one of the hardest things, I can speak from being a Bengals fan. I know Jake can, I'm James, I know you can as well. But I think one of the hardest things is when you look across the aisle, right? You see guys like Brian Flores with a less talented roster, if you actually look at it. Brian Flores, he comes in and he wins right away. Cliff Kingsbury, I get it. He had Kyler Murray. I get it. He had Kyler Murray. But this is a guy, Cliff Kingsbury, who hasn't won a lot of places where he's been. He's turning out wins. It's just making me wonder, okay, did we get it right? I've got to question that sometimes, because you look, I said, you look across the aisle and you see a lot of other, new coaches, even Joe Judge in the New York Football Giants. With no,
you're seeing signs.
You're seeing signs that they picked the right guy.
And Malik, you know what that says, right? And hopefully the Bengals organization realizes this. It doesn't take 3 years to realize.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that with rookie quarterbacks, right? We saw really within the final drive of week 1, Burrow against the Chargers after the worst play maybe of his career, where he flips it, he shovel passes it, and it was just awful against Melvin Ingram as the Bengals are driving. How did he respond? By throwing the game-winning touchdown that didn't count to A.J. Green. Right. And he drug them downfield against a really high-end Chargers defense. So it took us one drive in 60 minutes, but one drive to see, oh, man, Joe Burrow's it, right? 2 years, if you're still wondering if Zach is – the answer is probably not. And I covered a team in Cleveland, the Browns, right? They took Hugh Jackson, and they kept him after 1-31, and he didn't last that third season. And that was a mistake to keep him into that third year. And I was a Hugh fan, and I thought he could be successful. But the reality is if you don't flash even something, and I get last year and how bad it was for Zach Taylor, but if he doesn't flash in these final 7 games, then it is fair because you're right. Brian Flores, Joe Judge, all these guys are flashing. Flores flashed last year with nobody. They were selling pieces off like crazy in Miami. They were sellers. Now they might win the AFC East a year later. That needs to be the Bengals next year. Yeah. A year from now, we need to be talking about them in not only the playoff race, the AFC North race. And that's why when you're 0-4 in the division, you've been blown out by the Steelers, you've been blown out by the Ravens, and Zach Taylor only has 1 win in the division in a year and a half plus, that's concerning. And that's why the final 7 weeks are so crucial.
I agree.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting because I remember when the schedule came back in either February or March, we scheduled these next couple of weeks and circled that and kind of said, okay, Joe Burrow has a lot of tough games early on. He's probably going to struggle, but we'll see these 3 games whether he's can play against lower tier opponents. Now add Houston, who has an interim head coach, and then Dallas, who's a mess. And now we're talking about whether or not Zach Taylor can, show up or not. So it's a test for him because we've already seen Joe Burrow perform against these, against Tennessee, against Indianapolis, and those upper tier teams. But now it's time for Zach Taylor to show whether it's he's the guy or not. So it's kind of the tables have certainly switched, and whether in which person we're spotlighting.
No doubt, and I think with Zach. That game against Pittsburgh on the road, you're looking for your first road win. I get they got their tail kicked in. If he could have won that game, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It would be done. Yeah. He'd be back for year 3. You just beat the undefeated Steelers. You just got Joe Burrow and Quentin Spain at right tackle and found a way to win despite it being windy. Like, that was the signature win that he needed, to where the rest of the year, barring some epic collapse, wouldn't have mattered. And instead of even having a good showing, it was a dreadful showing from the very start. Outside of a couple drives from the defense, they just got their tails kicked. And that's what's so disheartening, because you were hoping to see at least a good showing, even if it was a loss. And if they somehow did win and pull off the upset, then, there you go, Zach. You're getting another year. That's your Marvin Lewis beating Kansas City and the undefeated Chiefs in year 1. That's what that would have been, essentially. And instead, they lost 36-10.
Now, I'm going to tell you something, James. I was listening to you say it on the Locked On Bengals podcast, which you can catch, I believe, Monday through Thursday. And Sunday, you can catch the recap as well. Correct, James?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Him and Jake Lisco, they do a great job with the Locked On Bengals podcast. But I was listening to you, and you said the game that I was always circling was, the Monday Night Football game against Pittsburgh. I think, to be quite honest with you guys, I think that's the game that Zach Taylor can turn a lot of heads, that this Bengals football franchise can show that we're headed in the right direction. Because what you can't have happen, right? You can't have Pittsburgh come into Cincinnati on Monday Night Football after, let's call it as sucking against the Pittsburgh Steelers the first time around. You can't have Pittsburgh come into Cincinnati Monday Night Football and get embarrassed. You just can't. Sure. The hope there is that maybe they would have shown, progress moving forward. So I'm really circling that Monday Night Football game, James, which I'm actually going to be at as well. So you and I've got to get together for that game. But I'm really circling that game as, come on, Zach. Come on, Bengals. Let's see something.
Well, in the key with that, and I hate to cut you off, but just real quick, the 3 of 4 stretch I just mentioned, right? Yeah. Where you got Giants, Dolphins, Redskins, or Washington, Washington, Miami, then New York, and who's the fourth? Oh, Dallas. You got that stretch. I'm saying win 3 of 4. If you can win 3 of 4 going into that rematch against Pittsburgh, you're feeling pretty good about yourself going into that Monday night matchup, right? So then that does become, again, because I think a loss like that against the Steelers can't be made up for just by a win over Washington, even though it's on the road. You're going to have to win a couple games. Right. So by then, if you win 3 of 4, there will be more buzz. Fans will be excited like they were after that Tennessee win, and they'll have some hope going into Monday night. And then to your point, if he could somehow win that one, I mean, that would be 4 of 5 in my, if I'm saying how I'm projecting things, where they split against Washington and Miami in 3 straight. So if they could somehow do that, then yeah, he would be back next year for sure.
Yeah, and trust me, there's nothing more that I would love than for my Cincinnati Bengals to beat Max's Miami Dolphins. So that way, when we come on the podcast Tuesday, I could say, Max, what did I tell you? We're here. Who dat? No, I'm joking. But James, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do want to ask one quick question of you, man. As we know, you covered Cleveland Browns last year, but you also covered the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I've got to ask you, with the draft coming up, I want to get your thoughts. I'm a Cavaliers fan, James, if you didn't know. Who would you like to see the Cleveland Cavaliers pick up in the draft and or free agency? I got to just ask you.
Well, no, you're good. I mean, everyone is on Denny Advia, right? I think that's a guy that the Cavs want to pick at 5. I was talking to some people because I love the draft too, and I love the NBA and not just the Cavs. I try to follow everything, all the rumors I know you're going to get into and trades and stuff. I love all that stuff. And so I would say him, but I don't think he's going to be there. I think he's going in the top 4. And so if Denny goes, I would assume, and you just keep hearing it, it's probably Obi Toppin. And there are a lot of Cavs fans that cringe at that because of his defense. But to me, I look and I'm like, all right, Colin Sexton's a playmaker. I really like Colin. His ability to get to the rim and beat players off the dribble. And then Darius Garland, people are really low on him in Cleveland. Yeah. I like Darius's game. I don't know why. I don't think they know basketball, because I talked to someone after the draft when they picked him 5th and even before the draft, and they were like, man, this kid is a baller. Now, was he coming off of an injury last year and was it in a tough spot? Absolutely. But I think he's going to blossom this year and really take a step forward. And so if you can add Obi Toppin, a guy who plays above the rim, to Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, specifically Garland, who's just a wizard with the ball, a really good passer. Great. I like it. So if not, and they, I think it's Denny. And the other thing is, I wouldn't be shocked if they potentially trade back a couple picks, but those are the 2 I think they're really kind of zeroed in on. And that's assuming, guys, that the top 3 go in some order like we're thinking, right? So if that's the case, and I think it will with Edwards and Wiseman and Ball, then I think it will be either Advia or Toppin. And look, man, Toppin plays above the rim. I know he might not be able to guard, but it'll be Lob City 2.0 in Cleveland.
Absolutely, and I would love to see it. I would love to see it. I don't think it's out of their own possibility that, if my Cleveland Cavaliers could, somehow put it all together, that maybe 8th seed we're talking about next year. No, I'm kidding. Oh. But who knows? Who knows, right? I got to keep the faith, right? I have not had.
It depends on what trade they make now. Yeah. It depends on what trade they make. I've heard some rumors. Now.
James, hit us with the Rapien bomb. Hit us with it.
No. I think that they're certainly willing to do a sign and trade with Tristan Thompson. Okay. You can get an asset or 2 there. Might get a player back that you can use. I think that, they're open to moving a lot of these guys. Love isn't going to bring you much back. Yeah. But Drummond, who knows? Maybe you can get something back for him. And, I think there are guys that they could certainly target. If they could get a wing to go along with those guards and get Toppin, let's say, I'm in. I like them, and I think they could be pretty competitive. I don't know about a playoff team or anything like that, but they could be fun to watch, which would be fun.
I always shoot for the stars, James. I really do, man. I'm just like that when it comes to.
Well, then why don't you want Westbrook if you're shooting for the stars, my man?
I'm good. I'll stay away from Westbrook. Let Russell Westbrook. I know our NBA analyst Pranav Sriraman is sitting right now in the back office like, he is the biggest Russell Westbrook hater. He says Russell Westbrook. That's what he calls him. Listen, I'm not there yet, but I definitely think that Russell Westbrook's his stats might be a little inflated there. But Max, I know you had another question for James before we let him get out of here.
So I got one more Bengals question for you. So again, I think you're totally spot on when you say that if Zach Taylor can overachieve this final stretch of the season, I think you should keep him as an organization. I don't see why you wouldn't incentivize that. But I'm going to be a little bit of a pessimist here. Say, you know what, Zach Taylor, your time is up. We got to hire someone else. Based on what you've seen from Joe Burrow, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an offensive coach.
Eric Bieniemy.
Do you think Eric Bieniemy is the guy? Do you think Greg Roman maybe from Baltimore is the guy? Maybe bringing in Dennis Allen from the Saints. I know that he's deserving of a second chance, and maybe shoot for the stars. Maybe the ownership wants to try something new. They bring in Lincoln Riley from college. Something to get the offense going. So
Ryan Dable.
Who would you say out of all of the coaching candidates out there would be the best fit for Joe Burrow?
I think Eric Bieniemy would certainly be in the running for you, Malik.
Yes,
no, not just for you. I think he would. I mean, you talk about a former Bengal.
Yeah.
He got interviewed before Taylor was hired. I'll give you one name that is familiar with Joe Burrow, and I was waiting for you guys to say it. And he's having some success in Carolina.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Joe Brady.
Okay.
Joe Brady.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And I think, look, you hired Zach to do what? To be this offensive whiz and run the offense.
Yeah.
Well, Joe's proven that. He was with the Saints. Then he thrives at LSU. Now he's thriving in Carolina, and it's a good Carolina offense, but not great. Yeah. And he's doing a lot there. So that's another guy I would take a look at. And then obviously there are rumors about Jim Harbaugh. He went to a Super Bowl. I would listen there as well. Malik, I'm waiting on Bieniemy too. I'm not just saying.
No, I would love Harbaugh. I would love Harbaugh.
But Harbaugh and Brady would certainly get a look as well from me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for the Bengals, they would have to hire Joe Brady since he's already the OC of the Panthers. They'd have to hire him as a head coach, right? They couldn't just bring him in as an OC or anything like that, which it may seem too soon in a quick rise. But when you look at Taylor's track record and how they were like, oh, well, this is the next Sean McVay. No, actually, Joe Brady looks more like the Sean McVay path and the potential guy who's going to have success versus what Zach Taylor did. So we'll see. Zach still can earn a third year and prove that he's the guy. But if not, I think those are some of the candidates.
Okay, last question. Last thing I want to say to you, James, real quick. Hypothetically speaking, the Bengals get a top 7 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically, it's too early. We know. I was a little sad to see Takk McKinley's contract get rescinded today because of obviously his failed physical. But hypothetically, a buddy posed this question. He says, "What if Jamar Chase is sitting there? What if Jamar Chase is sitting? No, okay,
no,
for me too.
There's a lot of for me, and it's not because wide receiver isn't a need because it is.
Mm-hmm.
That they need someone who can separate.
Yeah.
T. Higgins, everyone loves T. Higgins right now, and rightfully so. He's not a speed threat.
Yeah.
So Jamar Chase, I'd like one of those Bama wide receivers, to be honest with you.
Waddle.
No joke, right? I mean, the dude's legit. And that's the thing is, I don't know if you go top 10 or top 15 with a receiver, maybe you trade back or whatever. But to me, it's another deep receiver class, and it's kind of a deep tackle class too, believe it or not, offensive tackle.
Yeah.
So even if they're picking 8 to 10, 12, let's say they go on that streak that we're talking about, they're picking 15th overall, they might still be able to get a really good tackle and then double back at wide receiver. And last thing, guys, I look, they're filled with needs. Defensive line need, cornerback probably going to be a need. On the flip side, we're talking about an offensive line need, wide receiver need. They drafted defensive heavy last year. Mm-hmm. Maybe they go offensive heavy and just try to say, you know what, we're going to outscore you while we remake this defense and try to drop 40 on teams next year. That would be fun. And that would align with Joe Brady or Eric Bieniemy or whoever you want to throw in.
And I'm here for it, James. I am here for it. James, I want to thank you so much, my brother, for joining us on the Wrightway podcast. We definitely got to do this again sometime. You're always, pleasant to talk to, my man. James, tell them where to find you at, man.
Allbengals.com, plenty of articles going up there on a daily basis, the latest breaking Bengals news. And then Malik, as you heard, or as you said, rather, and I appreciate it, Locked On Bengals podcast 5 times a week, Jake Lisco and I. So if there's any breaking news there, we got you covered. And that's certainly a one-stop shop if you're looking for a Bengals podcast.
Absolutely, James. Thank you so much, my man. Like I said, I'll be in Cincinnati in a few weeks, and we definitely got to get together if you're available. But thank you so much for tuning into the podcast, for joining us on the podcast today, my man. I hope you have a great night.
Sounds good. I appreciate you. We'll definitely have to do that. And thanks, guys. Be well.
Yes, sir. That was James Rapien of allbengals.com on one half of the Locked On Bengals podcast. He was an absolute pleasure to talk to. Super excited to have him on the show today, guys. But, guys, we're going to keep things rolling here on the show. I mean, I feel like we talked a lot of Joe Burrow. And I could talk Joe Burrow all day, any point in time with anybody. So, like, I really, really enjoyed it, guys. But, guys, I want to jump right into it, right? Want to talk about our Week 10 takeaways of the NFL season, all right? Week 10 takeaways of the NFL season. Jake, we're going to try to make this quick. I'm going to start this one off with you. What was the one of the biggest takeaways this week of Week 10? I feel like it wasn't like a lot of marquee games on, or so to speak. What were your thoughts on Week 10? It felt like sort of like a weird week of football.
It was very weird there. You know, me and Daniel had a little bit of beef on the show last week. Both of those teams lost, Baltimore and Buffalo, in different ways. But I'm going to go to the NFC and talk about the Seattle Seahawks. Now, James just finished talking about whether or not, the Bengals next year could decide, we're just going to score 40 points and we'll figure out the defense. That's literally what the Seattle Seahawks have been this year. Mm-hmm. That was not what they were 3 days ago or 2 days ago. I am done with the Seattle Seahawks. They are not a Super Bowl team. My list of teams who can win the Super Bowl is back down to 4 as of right now. And the Seattle Seahawks probably wouldn't be in my top 7. Russell Wilson, take Mahomes off Kansas City. They have showed that they can win games. Mm-hmm. If you take Russell Wilson off of Seattle, I don't think they win a football game. Like, I don't know who they beat. And when he is not playing like he was at the beginning of the season, this is not a good football team. Like, this is not a top-tier football team. Green Bay is better than them right now, and throughout the whole year, I've said that Seattle is better than Green Bay. Right now, Green Bay's better team. I don't care what they did against Jacksonville. If Russell Wilson is turning the ball over 9 times in a 3-game span, 6 in 2 games, this team's not going anywhere. Mm. And they got Arizona on a quick turnaround. Arizona coming off of a ton of momentum after what happened in Buffalo. They got Arizona coming Thursday night. That's probably going to be no, it's not the game of the year, but a very, very marquee game. Like, probably one of the most important games of the football season so far. Yeah. But Seattle, I'm done on them, man. I don't even know if they win the division right now.
Jake, you can't say you're done with them. Bro, like, listen. Like,
done. Russell Wilson is not the MVP anymore.
No, he's out of the MVP conversation. He's completely.
Y'all know who the MVP is, right?
It's Kyler Murray right now. Kidding. It can't be, though.
It's probably you have to say Mahomes or Kyler in that discussion.
Yeah. Jake, for me,
25 touchdowns, 1 interception. You can't beat that.
I think Chris Carson's been hurt. I think you have to give the Seahawks a little bit more time. I know their defense has always been scaring me, but I'm not going to count on Russell Wilson just yet, and I'll stick with Malik here. I'm going to wait till Week 13 to see.
I mean, you should just wait 2 more days and see what they look like against Arizona. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you that. I'll wait. Yeah. I'll wait 48 hours. In about 48 hours, this game kicks off. I will wait 51 hours. In 51 hours, I will tweet at you and tell you what I think about Seattle.
Max,
51 hours. Start the timer.
Max, it's like a scene from Taken. He's like 48 hours. That's what he said.
Start the timer. It's coming.
Max, what was your biggest takeaway of week 10 of the NFL football season?
Well, I was going to say that I think Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks as a whole are not the same type of team without Chris Carson. But I'm not going to go there because I think Jake did a good job talking about that.
Agreed.
I'm going to talk about the NFC East. I don't know who the favorite is right now. I mean, going into that game, I was pretty confident that the Eagles were going to take care of business. I understand the Giants went in with a lot of hype and they've been playing well as of late, but I thought the Eagles, they have a couple pieces, especially on offense coming back. I thought they would fare out better. I thought they were the better team, but clearly that wasn't the case. Turnovers were the story of the game for them. And frankly, they just got outplayed in all facets of the game by the Giants. So are we ready to call the Giants the division favorites? I mean, that division is more wide open than ever.
It is. And listen, I'm gonna say something really quickly about that. I want to say 2 things. One, I want to get to one of Daniel's questions he had asked me earlier this week, but I also want to get to I don't want to count out the Dallas Cowboys yet, guys. Before everyone wiles out, I don't want to count out the Dallas Cowboys just yet. The reason why they're getting a capable quarterback in Andy Dalton back. And notice I didn't say great. I said capable. He's capable. He was thrown into the fire. He didn't look great his first start with them. He beats
Ben DiNucci.
I think the Dallas Cowboys can still pull off an upset, a miracle upset, because I think from a roster standpoint, the Dallas Cowboys have a better constructed roster than the New York Football Giants, than the Washington football team right now. Even though I think Washington's defense is severely underrated, I just don't think that offense can propel them over the top. However, I think the Eagles, while we all look at Carson Wentz, and we got to start, Daniel loves to use the word recency bias. We've got to start questioning Doug Peterson.
Yes.
I mean, no, we really got to start questioning Doug Peterson, guys. Either that or we've got to start talking about Carson Wentz. Because let me tell you something right now. Let's actually talk about it. Since Doug Peterson took over that football team, they only had one really stellar year where they obviously won the Super Bowl. That was the year they won the Super Bowl, right? But people forget, lost in all the sauce, lost in all the hoopla. They signed 18 free agents that offseason. Alshon Jeffrey can't get them on the field. Majority of those guys who signed are no longer there. So it makes you question, can Doug Peterson get this Philadelphia Eagles team over the top with a less than roster? Better yet, can Carson Wentz uplift the talent around him? Guys, I'm not so sure.
The thing with Carson Wentz, and a lot of people are super low on him and have been since the beginning of the year. I was not one of those people. I had Carson Wentz as an elite quarterback 9-10 weeks ago. I really did. I can't lie. But a lot of people say about Carson Wentz is, look, he's probably had 19 or 20 good games in his career. He had the 11, 12, or 13 that he played in the MVP year. And then he had the 4 or 5 games last year when he turned into Superman and put that entire team of practice squad receivers on his back, and they wrapped off 4 out of 5 wins and ended up, I think winning the division, right? Yeah, they hosted a playoff game. So, I mean, other than that, it's been injuries for Wentz. It's been lackluster performances. It's been turnovers. It's been turmoil. And a lot of that goes to his accuracy. A lot of that goes to, the receivers being off the field. But a lot of that goes to Doug Peterson too, and I'll say the same thing. I think Doug Peterson has coached maybe 23 good games in his career. He didn't win, in the regular season when Wentz was out, and then when Wentz put the entire team on his back, it was all good and stuff. But both those guys have serious question marks right now.
Yeah. If I'm Fly Eagles Fly Nation, I'm really starting to get a little antsy. Because listen, I said it a long, long time ago, and people slapped me in my face. Jimmy went off on me. All the Eagles fans said, "Shut up, Malik," and they were at my door with pitchforks. No, they really weren't, but they were asking for my head. I said, remember, guys, Nick Foles was supposed to be the Philadelphia Eagles franchise quarterback before there was a Carson Wentz. Nick Foles won the Philadelphia Eagles a Super Bowl. Nick Foles, right, is the guy that a lot of the locker room was split up. Some people thought that the Eagles should have stuck with Nick Foles. Some people thought that the Eagles should have went with Carson Wentz. Majority were on the side of Nick Foles, apparently. That was the report.
Well, yeah, I mean, anyone who says that is stupid. They were never going to move off of Carson Wentz. That's just crazy.
No, I get that, but it's not crazy in hindsight. When you look
in hindsight,
it's not crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
No,
it's pretty crazy.
No,
I think it's pretty crazy. Nick
Foles was not the future
fact that he carried that team last year to the playoffs at 9-7 with practice squad players all around the offense. I don't think Nick Foles could have done that.
No. And I'm not saying that he could have, but when you look at it though, Nick Foles, for some reason, when he steps into a Philadelphia Eagles offense and you pair him up with Doug Peterson, they make magic. They make magic. They just do. I'm sorry, they do. For whatever reason, they do. It just works. It just works. So I get where some Eagles fans wanted Nick Foles. It's simply, all I did was pose the question and people were at my head for it. But it's a real question to ask. It's a real question. But we don't want to spend too much time on that. But Daniel, I know you wanted to interject something.
I was just going to say I completely agree. Watching that game, watching the Eagles all season long, Doug Peterson's just made some questionable calls. Like, they had a 4th and 10, and they gave a 1-on-1 to a rookie. Jalen Reagor, 1-on-1 against James Bradbury, one of the better cornerbacks in the league, and just said, throw it up and hope he catches it.
Right.
They had a chance to go out and kick a field goal, Instead, they went for 2. They went for 2, didn't get the 2-point conversion. And I don't know whether that's just looking back in hindsight, but he's made some questionable calls all year long. Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz, both of them, you have to look at them from a critical eye right now. Carson Wentz, I know Jimmy loves Carson Wentz, but you have to give him his fair share right now.
Yeah. But here's what I'm going to say. You know, like I said, at the end of the day, we'll see how it all pans out. My biggest takeaway of Week 10 football, Danny, before we go to you, my biggest takeaway of Week 10 football was they ain't dead yet. They ain't dead yet. Stop counting those New England Patriots out. I'm going to keep telling people, stop counting the New England Patriots out. As long as they have the evil hoodie on the sideline, they got an opportunity. I understand the Dolphins are a hot team right now. No offense, Max. I understand that the Bills are playing well. I get all those things. But it's Bill freaking Belichick. It's Bill Belichick. It's the man behind the dynasty. It's possibly the second greatest coach of all time behind Vince Lombardi. Behind Vince Lombardi. I'm sorry. Behind Vince Lombardi. That being said, okay, he's ahead, and he's better than Vince Lombardi. He has more success than Vince Lombardi, but I'm not saying he's better than Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi was literally a competitive maniac. But at the end of the day, I try to tell people, listen, don't count the Patriots out yet. And every single time we count the Patriots out, what do? They slap us in the face and say, when will you learn? When will you learn that your actions have consequences? Do not bet against the New England Patriots. Do not bet against the New England Patriots. That was my biggest takeaway from Week 10. I don't think the Patriots are dead just yet. But continue. Daniel, what was your takeaway?
My takeaway is that the Bills will have more success in the playoffs than the Ravens. And I know Jake is gonna cry about it. I know that both teams lost. Both teams lost, yes.
Yeah, they lost.
But Josh Allen, the final drive of the game, he led a game-winning drive. He led that drive. And the Ravens, what can Lamar Jackson do? I can't see him.
He was playing in a monsoon.
When he's playing in a monsoon
drive. Yeah. And I'm not just talking about last week, but we're talking about how can I count on Lamar Jackson to win in the playoffs when I know if Josh Allen throws one less interception, that game's over. If they don't give up some crazy Hail Mary, they win that game. Josh Allen led that team to victory, and I just don't know if I can trust Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. The Bills are the second or third best team in the AFC. Better than the Ravens.
Second?
Or third. They're on the same level.
So they got blown out by Tennessee, lost by double digits to Kansas City, and all of a sudden now they're better than Pittsburgh, who doesn't have one blemish on their schedule.
That game was a lot closer than the score was. And they were also coming off of how many days of practice did they have? They had like 2 days of practice because of all the COVID stuff that happened. Listen, that Bills
offense lost by what, 60 to Tennessee?
Okay, that's how good is Tennessee right now?
That doesn't mean garbage.
So all I'm going to say is I trust that offense in the playoffs. Their offense, the Bills' offense, man.
Well,
I don't know.
Again, and I think this will be a lot less hectic than it was last week because we're moving past it. But you make exactly my point. I don't have either team winning the Super Bowl. I think there's 4 teams that can win the Super Bowl: Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Tampa, and New Orleans.
God.
It's those 4 teams.
Oh God.
But look, we can sit here and hold hands and say, oh, maybe Buffalo can get there. No, because we already saw them against Kansas City, and it's the same thing against Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh doesn't let you score.
All right.
Even though Baltimore had 400 plus yards of scrimmage against Pittsburgh's defense.
Okay, we were on cloud 9, guys. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it back down. There's only one team coming out of the AFC.
Yeah,
and that goes by the Kansas City Chiefs.
I mean, I can go as far as saying there's only 3 teams who can win because there's no chance anyone's beating Kansas City in the AFC.
Right. Listen, at the end of the day, Mahomes and them boys, they're the real deal. Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. And the fact of the matter is, there is no football team right now in the AFC that can compete with them offensively. They cannot. Offensive firepower, they can't. There's no team in the AFC. There's no team in the AFC that can hold them down that is not in the – listen – we have to measure division games with a grain of salt. Let me tell you why, because those are always going to be tough games. That's why the Chargers have consistently been the team that gave Patrick Mahomes the most issues in his career. Google it, stats-wise. They're the only team. When it comes down to it, though, there is not a team there's not a team. I feel like the AFC North is one of the toughest divisions of football, and Kansas City has played those teams over the past few years, and they made every team that they've played in that division look ridiculous. Ridiculous. There's not a team that can match offensive firepower with the Kansas City Chiefs.
You don't think the Bills are close?
No.
What?
You don't think the Bills' offense is at least close?
Close to what?
To matching their firepower.
Okay. This is the one I think the only
I don't know what your man crush is with Josh Allen.
No, let's talk about it. No, let's actually talk about it.
We can talk about it, but I'm talking about the Kansas City freaking football Chiefs.
This team scored 17 points against the Jets.
You know what? Before we even continue, I want to tap in our residential Kansas City Chiefs fan, our NBA analyst, Pranav Sriraman. He said, "Tag me in, coach. I'm tagging him in."
Daniel. Didn't we see the Bills and the Chiefs already go head-to-head, and the Chiefs' offensive firepower just blew them out of the water?
Did not blow them out of the water. What game were you watching? What game were you watching? That was not a blowout.
Jake is Googling.
It's one of those games.
They won by 9 points, I believe. They won by 9. That game should have been way closer.
It's one of those games which Malik would describe. The score is a lot closer than how the game looked.
No, it's the opposite. The score was a lot bigger than what the game was.
Kansas City, 466 total yards. Buffalo, 206 yards.
Okay, and also, how many days of practice were they coming off of? They literally couldn't play the previous game.
1 day of practice, 0 days of practice. If they playing in a monsoon, if they're playing, they got to practice. I don't care.
I think the Bills game was one of those 3 games which we had in a 10-day period. I think that was the Bills game was a game which we had in the 10-day period. We had 3 games in 10 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, the only reason I would say Pittsburgh has a chance against Kansas City is because Pittsburgh has a chance to play that game in Heinz Field. If Pittsburgh locks up the number 1 overall seed, which they will if they beat Baltimore and get the tiebreaker over KC and go undefeated in their division, or if they go 16-0, and if that game is played at Heinz Field, then Pittsburgh has a chance. Right now, if Pittsburgh hosts Kansas City, I think they're a field goal underdogs. If Buffalo were to host Kansas City, I think they're a touchdown underdog, maybe more.
Yeah, I agree with the Buffalo point. In terms of the Steelers, the problem is I don't see them finishing over Kansas City to finish.
Yeah, that's no. The only reason. So, Pranav, I don't know if you heard it. I have 4 teams who can win the Super Bowl. I have KC, Pittsburgh, Tampa, and New Orleans. The only reason I have Pittsburgh in there is because there is a chance. And right now that they're in it, there's a chance that game can be played at Heinz Field, and they play 3 home playoff games, or no, just 2.
Tristan, to your comment, you said the Raiders scored 40 on the Chiefs. Listen, and they beat the Chiefs, right? But every once in a while, every squirrel has needs a nut. He finds his nut. That every once in a while that happens.
So why can't that happen in the playoffs? Why can that not happen? If you're saying every once in a while it happens, so why can't it not happen?
The team won the Super Bowl last year. I mean,
Daniel, it can happen. It can.
Exactly, it can. That's what I'm saying.
Daniel, but you can say that with anything because any team could be any team on any given day.
Yes.
What I'm saying, if you're a betting man, Daniel, you're putting money down. You're putting the Bills over or are you betting the Bills over the Chiefs right now?
No, I never said that. I said offensive firepower. They can match. They can match.
You make a fair point.
I don't think so.
Yes.
Teams can score on us. You're right.
Yes.
The Texans did last year. They dropped 24 on our domes. Guess what? We scored 28 in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
dude, there's no guys. This is a joke.
We all agree.
No offense that could compete with the Chiefs in the entire league. No offense single-handedly in the entire league that can beat the Chiefs.
Let's
stop kidding ourselves. Yeah, the Buccaneers offense.
Will said that the Bills offense can't run the ball. You have not watched a single game if you think that. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary can run the ball.
Will brought a good point. Will said the Chiefs are winning by 2 touchdowns with 5 minutes left the game go. The Bills got lucky, got lucky, and it wasn't even close.
So Bills can make it a competitive game, but they can't compete with that firepower on offense.
Yeah. Tristan, I hear what you're saying. We'll see what happens this upcoming week, but I ain't betting you guys to beating the Chiefs twice. I'm just really not. I think Pat Mahomes and the boys are gonna come out ready. But guys, let's keep it going. Let's talk a little boxing real quick, guys. Deontay Wilder came out and said your king was cheated. Your king. He lost the fight against Tyson Fury because Tyson Fury was cheated. Tyson Fury had something stuffed in his glove, which honestly, guys, it's honestly believable. It is believable. We're talking about a guy in Tyson Fury who we're talking about a guy in Tyson Fury who is not known for his knockout power. We're talking about a guy Tyson Fury who came into the fight 40 pounds overweight, than Deontay Wilder. I don't know why he agreed to that, but they did. But if you actually look at it, Deontay Wilder was left with a dent in his head. I've boxed before. I don't know if any of you guys have, but I've boxed before. I'm being honest. I have.
7-0. 7-0.
I am 7-0. I am. But there's no amount of a man's punch that's going to leave a dent in your head by a knuckle, especially wearing boxing gloves. That's not normal. And the fact that Deontay Wilder has still to this day, we're talking about a fight that happened in January. We're talking about a dent that's still left in his skull. I'm sorry, February. A dent that's still left in his skull. There's something to be said about that. There was a lot of iffy stuff going on in that fight. There was a lot of conflicting reports going on with Tyson Fury's glove and stuff like that. And now we know Tyson Fury's trying to not fight him for the third time, and because Deontay Wilder's he's able to have a mandatory rematch, and Tyson Fury is trying to not allow Deontay Wilder to cash that in. So I guess I want to make this very, very short. Max, I'll go to you first. Are you guys buying it? Do you think Tyson Fury cheated to beat Deontay Wilder? Or do you think that this is far-fetched?
I think at the moment, I don't think there's enough evidence to make a bold claim and say, yep, he definitively cheated. I think, it's up in the air. His skull is definitely a big question mark because, I don't think, you can get punched that hard in a fight where your skull is literally dented inwards. But I'm going to, look, I'm not going to jump the gun and say that he's home free. He's done nothing. But, I think Tyson Fury has a lot more class than that. The guy has overcome depression. He's overcome, he's had really, really tough, he's had drug overdoses. He's had a lot of bad things going on in his life since he beat Klitschko a couple years ago. I just think from what I've seen, and again, you never know a fighter from outside the ring truly, but from what I know of Tyson Fury, it just seems like that would be, kind of outside of his character. And he seems like a pretty stand-up guy.
And let me stop you there. I would not ever second guess it if he wasn't brought up on things before in the past. He's been brought up on, he's been tested before. He's used PEDs before, during the fight. Sure. He's dealt with these type of stuff. So it's not necessarily something that I would put past him. Listen, let me paint a picture for you quick, Max, right? You're a big MMA guy. Jake, you're a big MMA guy. Daniel, I know you're getting into it. Let me ask you this. In any sport, even you, let me ask you guys this. If you knew you could beat a guy, right? If the Patriots knew that they could beat the Colts,
funny,
why would they deflate the footballs? If they don't
the Patriots knew that they were going to beat the Bengals and still recorded their sideline.
Right.
Daniel, your response?
Your response. Yeah. No, but in all honesty, to guarantee results. Right? So if Tyson Fury was so confident that he was going to beat Deontay Wilder, remember when he fought Deontay Wilder the first time, he walked into that fight at around 250. They were, they were a little closer. It was probably a 20-pound weight difference.
You're talking about the first one, right?
The first fight.
Much closer.
Much closer. Fight, Tyson Fury walked into difference at 40 pounds over.
Yep.
The whole knock going into that fight was Tyson Fury didn't have the knockout power. Isn't it convenient? And I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but isn't it convenient? Tyson Fury has never been known as a knockout artist his entire career. He's been called pillow hands. He's a guy who everyone has said, is not a hard puncher. He's the guy that will outbox you, out-technique you, and that's how he'll win the fight. But it's just convenient to me in the biggest fight of his career, where he was saying, I'm going to knock Deontay Wilder out. He came in with a 40-pound weight difference. And I get it. The weight might have played effect too. But the fact that he was hitting Deontay Wilder, and Deontay Wilder fought a guy in the Boogeyman, I want to say a fight before that, and he got hit with bigger shots in that fight.
Are you talking about Ortiz?
Yeah, Ortiz. And It wasn't the same. Deontay Wilder was fine. You didn't see him.
Here. Can I come in and pitch in?
Sure.
I think even in the Ortiz, that was the closest call Deontay Wilder's career before he lost, obviously, I would say definitively. But honestly, I would just say, 40-pound difference, that means a lot. I mean, and it could have been even more of a discrepancy going into the fight, like on fight day, right? But look, I'm going to say, aside from the Ortiz fight, is it fair to say that Deontay Wilder's chin hasn't really been tested? I mean, look, I know that Tyson Fury is not really known for his power, but he's very technical. And 40 pounds, plus he's going out aggressive. Deontay not game plan for that, right? It was a different fight than he anticipated. He anticipated something more defensive, more technical, like the first fight, right? Is it fair? Caught off, and his chin wasn't ready for it. He hasn't.
It's fair, but I want to just paint a different picture, a similar picture, but a different picture. Tyson Fury, to your point, he does struggle with depression, right? He is a guy that feels the weight of the world crashing on him sometimes. Suppose Tyson Fury didn't believe in himself to beat Deontay Wilder, so he felt like he had to take extra precaution. Because remember, guys, Tyson Fury was beating Deontay Wilder in the first fight handily. He was beating him.
He almost knocked him out late in the fight.
He was beating him. Well, Tyson Fury was beating him by being a boxer, going about it the same way he was going about it before, and he still got dropped twice. One of the knockdowns was considered controversial because people thought it was a full count. But he got dropped twice after providing the perfect fight. So maybe, just maybe, listen, being a guy who's been around boxing, I love boxing. It does not matter if you're beating a guy. If a guy knocks you on your ass, you still come out of that fight even if you won feeling like you lost. You might have won the boxing match, but you lost the fight in your eyes. Because in the audience eyes, you got dropped. In the audience eyes, you're bleeding. In the audience eyes, you were made vulnerable. So I personally think Tyson Fury didn't believe in himself enough to beat Deontay Wilder the same way he beat him last time, without knowing in the back of his mind, if Deontay Wilder hits me with one of these right hands, I'm going down again, and this time I might not get up. That's just my 2 cents on it, guys. Jake, Daniel, Pranav, you guys got anything you want to add to that?
You're good, Jake. You're good.
All right. I mean, I'll just say this. I'm not going to speculate anything. I don't know, what was in his gloves or anything like that. But Tyson, my man, like, you're going to win the fight. Go sing in the ring after the fight. You better fight him a third time. Right. Like, come on. Like,
and now he's ducking it, because it reminds me, guys, by the way, this isn't like a former thing that has happened. Like, it's not an unknown thing that has never happened in boxing before. Antonio Margarito fought a guy by the name of Miguel Cotto. And Antonio Margarito had bricks in his hand under his glove. He had literally it was like shaved pavement or something crazy. And when I say he beat the crap out of Miguel Cotto,
it was ugly.
Miguel Cotto was outboxing him, but he was hitting Miguel Cotto like 1-2 shots with jabs, and it was just ripping Miguel Cotto's skin off of his face. And nobody knew what happened. And then they came to find out he had something in his glove. It made a dent in Miguel Cotto's face. They fought a second time, and Miguel Cotto absolutely annihilated him.
Killed him. It wasn't even close.
The guy hasn't fought. I don't even know if the guy's fought since. It was that bad.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm just suspicious. I'm very suspicious that maybe Tyson. I did that on purpose because I'm very suspicious that maybe Tyson Fury doesn't want a rematch with Deontay Wilder because he knows what Deontay Wilder knows. Because to Pranav's point, to Tristan's point, you're only creating a dent in somebody's head if you're fighting the damn Terminator. That's not regular. That doesn't just happen, guys. There had to be something extra, regardless of what it is. We could speculate all day. Oh, what did he have in his glove? I don't know. Nobody knows. But the sheer fact that Tyson Fury is trying to avoid this fight, it makes me wonder.
But let me thing to you.
Sure.
Okay. Tyson Fury's already beaten him once, and obviously the tie. You could have said that that Wilder could have won that fight. It was a genuine toss up. I don't think he's ducking him. I think it's more leverage Joshua fight, and Joshua's legitimately ducking him. That if you want to talk about duck, Joshua does not want that fight because he knows that. Listen, If there's anybody that can beat Joshua now, I think it's Tyson Fury. So it's kind of like a vicious or fair. I think Deontay Wilder can make it interesting.
Remember, because Anthony Joshua said, "Oh, no matter what happens in the Tyson Fury fight with Deontay Wilder, I'll fight Tyson Fury, but I won't fight Deontay Wilder." Why is that?
That's interesting. No, but I think it's a cycle of, I guess you can call it ducking. So I guess, if you want to say Fury is ducking Wilder, I think it's because he's trying to duck, because Joshua's trying to duck him, but he wants a fight with Joshua. So I think they got to get it all worked out.
He has a mandatory fight.
I know.
Rematch in his club. Tyson Fury's got to take this fight. He's really
I think he should fight and then do the Joshua fight, assuming he wins. That's what I think he should do.
Max, I know this wasn't on the slate, but I got to bring it up. Did you hear?
Good. About?
We might get our guy, Khabib Nurmagomedov, in the octagon one more time. That's the rumor going around.
Yeah.
Khabib Nurmagomedov might be fighting one more fight, and that is believed to be against a Hall of Famer. That fight is believed to be against George St. Pierre.
Give me a little GSP action. I'm excited. Yeah.
Ooh, that fight gets me excited.
There's a rumor that just came out, or not a rumor. Michael Chandler, who's I love big Michael Chandler guy. I'm very excited to see him fight in the UFC. He came out and kind of went after Tony Ferguson, and it looks like they might fight on January 23rd, which is around the same time that Poirier is going to fight Conor McGregor. So
could be on the same card, maybe, right?
Right. Because remember, Khabib never gave up the belt yet, guys. He's still the champ.
Sure.
But you add Michael Chandler to this division. If he beats Tony Ferguson in his first fight in the UFC,
Jake from State Farm. Jake.
I mean,
nobody's beating Khabib Nurmagomedov. Let's be honest.
It's just a rumor.
Only person that only way you could beat Khabib Nurmagomedov is with a Hail Mary and a prayer, because that ain't happening.
I know. I'm speaking as if Khabib is still retired, and presumably that they're eventually going to take the belt away from him. And
he refuses to sign the papers. He refuses to sign the papers so far. His manager even came out and said Ali Abdulaziz.
Well, you can't.
Ali Abdulaziz. Every time I hear Conor McGregor saying that in my head, but Ali Abdulaziz, he had tweeted out the cryptic 30-0 guys. He tweeted that out.
I mean,
let's not rule out.
He's going to get stripped of the belt.
I have one more name for you guys in the lightweight division. Let's not rule out RDA. RDA is back in the lightweight division. He had a pretty decent fight.
He's done running from Conor McGregor?
He literally called him out. He just called him out. He wants to fight. I think, and Conor McGregor wants to fight too. So if he beats Poirier, assuming it's for the title, let's do it. RDA against McGregor. This has been like 5 years? No, like at least 5 years in the making.
As much as I hate Conor McGregor, he bounces heads off the canvas, and I think that fight is not a good fight for RDA.
I think Conor McGregor would beat the hell out of him. I'm here to see it.
Yeah, me too. I'm here for the Max season. I don't like Conor McGregor, but Conor McGregor, God damn it, you want to talk about how you're the best. You want to talk about how you're the double champ and all that crap. Now's your chance to prove it.
I think 2021 is going to be a similar year like 2018 or 2019 was. I think McGregor's going to be very active in 21. I'm not capping. I think he's going to be very active.
And if he is, I am here for it.
Yeah, I'm here for it too.
Just stay away from Jorge Masvidal. Just stay away.
I don't want. Don't touch my guy. Come on.
Because if you do, you'll get baptized. I really believe that. Guys,
come on.
He'll get baptized.
I love him. Come on. I love Jorge. Come on.
He'll get baptized. Jorge Masvidal would baptize Conor McGregor. In the name of the. No, I'm joking. I'm going to keep it going though. We brought our NBA lead analyst, Pranav Sriraman, here for a reason. Why? Because it is the most chaotic week in the NBA. So text your friends, text your mama, text your dad, text your uncles. Let them know. We're talking NBA action on the Wrightway podcast right now, and we got a lot to cover right now. Pranav, this is where I set up Pranav, and I'm actually going to let you pretty much take over most of the show because this is your wheelhouse. This is what you are here. This is what you're here for. So, Jay said Jay's always supporting us, man. He said 2021, the return of Nate Diaz. Hopefully his cartilage on the
fight.
Yeah, hopefully.
I need it.
Yeah. Conor versus Nate Diaz. I'm not surprised. No, but anyway. Listen, we brought Pranav here to talk NBA action, Pranav, and that's what we are going to do. Now I'm going to start this off, man. James Harden forced his way. Apparently, he's trying to force his way out of Houston. Are you buying this? Or I know Woj reported it, but I also know James Harden posted on his Instagram story.
Cap,
Him
bottle
twisted.
cap.
Right. He told Cap, you know what I'm saying? No, but he posted that on his Instagram story. So I gotta ask you guys. I gotta ask you now. Now, is this a good move? Do we want? Should we be behind James Harden trying to force his way out of Houston? Do you think this is real? And do you buy that Houston? Do you buy that he's trying to? Edmundo, don't worry. Daniel's gonna talk enough. I promise you. He will. Do you buy that Brooklyn Nets are the best destination for him? Not bad.
So to answer your last question,
Sure.
the Brooklyn Nets, well, that's his best chance to win a championship, but I don't think that's the best basketball fit. I think the Philadelphia 76ers would be the best basketball fit if they get rid of Ben Simmons, pair up Joel Embiid, James Harden. You have the guard tandem with a big man. It won't be the best odds for a championship, but I think basketball-wise, just like fit, they'll be the best basketball fit. But in terms of, do I buy James Harden wanting to get out of Houston? Well, it was all just speculation until last night when Houston traded away Robert Covington to acquire multiple first-round picks and Trevor Ariza. That just put the writing on the wall. They're also trading Westbrook soon. I think James Harden will not be starting the season in the Houston Rockets jersey. I think eventually he will find his way on the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know what way. They don't really have a good package. Maybe they need to get a third team in there. But I think James Harden also expressed, according to some reports, that he doesn't care if they get a mediocre package back. He will do anything to be in Brooklyn. So I really don't know what he's going to do in order to get to Brooklyn. But I can tell you that he won't be in a Rockets uniform to start the season, and he wants to get the hell out of Houston.
Nah, Woj is going against you. Woj is saying that he thinks that James Harden is going to start, the training camp as a member of the Houston Rockets. What are your sources telling you? I'm joking. Daniel, what are your thoughts?
I just want to talk about the proposed trade or him proposing to go to Brooklyn.
Yeah, you got some fans in here. They're saying Harden popping. Daniel, get him. Hype him up, Danny. Let's go.
I love James Harden, right? James Harden's one of my favorite players in the NBA. But let's talk about it. I want to hear you guys' thoughts. If James Harden goes to Brooklyn, are we going to crucify him like we crucified Kevin Durant?
No, it's something called free will. It's something called free will. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
When God made the world, he made a thing called free will. Kevin Durant is a coward. I don't like Kevin Durant.
Is James Harden a coward?
Kevin Durant is a coward.
Here's the thing, Daniel.
So is James Harden a coward then?
Daniel, here's the thing. I think Durant.
James Harden, yeah, go ahead, Pranav. Sorry.
I think Durant will get more blame if he tries to bring Harden to Brooklyn than Harden trying to force his way to Brooklyn. Here's why. He left Golden State. He left Golden State because he felt the need to prove something in Brooklyn, that he can win a championship without a team as a consensus number one player. And bringing James Harden, is that really changing anything? It's just going to make another super team. He's not proving anything that he hasn't already proven. And the reason why
I buy that 100%.
The reason why it's completely different is because James Harden has had no relation to Brooklyn before this. Kevin Durant lost to Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. He blew a 3-1 lead before joining them, and he left the team with an all-star in Russell Westbrook. We already know how I feel about Westbrook. But that team was a good team. That team was one win away from the NBA Finals. It's not like this rebuilding situation in Houston. James Harden is trying to get out of a bad situation. Kevin Durant was on a team that was one win away from the NBA
Both
Finals.
of their goals is to win.
I have breaking news, guys. I have breaking news. DeAndre Baker just signed with the Chiefs.
Good for him.
Sorry.
Okay.
I don't understand how. Okay,
the cornerback from Giants. Okay.
Kevin Durant wanted to win a championship. He went to the best spot. James Harden wants to win a championship. He's going to the best spot.
It's different.
It's not different.
Listen. It is different. There's a thing called loyalty. There's a thing called not abandoning your post, right? So the fact of the matter is, Kevin Durant was in a situation, to Pranav's point, like everybody knows this. We talk about this ad nauseating because it's probably one of the most egregious moves we ever seen a professional athlete make. He was in a situation where he was beating the team that came back and beat him. And his sole purpose, it's not like he went and joined another team. I said it's not like he went and joined another team. Daniel, be quiet. Just listen for a second. He went and joined the team that his team had a 3-1 lead on and said, if I can't beat him, that is the classic That is the classic example of if I can't beat him, join him. He up and left his post, left Russell Westbrook stranded, and left and signed with the Golden State Warriors, an already stacked Golden State Warriors team that, could be honest with you, didn't need Kevin Durant. They didn't need Kevin Durant. I think the Warriors. Don't get me wrong. It didn't hurt. It didn't hurt to have them. Sure, they lost, but is anybody doubting that they probably would have been back in the same position next year? At the very least, they would have been in the Western Conference Finals. So the difference is James Harden has stuck by his post. James Harden has seen Chris Paul, has seen guys like Clint Capella, has seen so many different players come in and out of Houston.
For him, they all did that for James Harden. That's why they did it.
He was just the best player.
You're right. You're right that Kevin Durant went to the best place where he can win a championship, not compete for a championship.
So what's James Harden doing? Before this even happened, Malik and everyone else was saying, "Oh, the Brooklyn Nets are the favorite." Oh, you're telling me the Celtics?
I never said the Brooklyn Nets were the favorite. So don't put words in my mouth.
So then, what do you say? What do you say?
Words in my mouth. I never.
They better not be the favorite.
I said, you know where I'm rocking. The Los Angeles Lakers. So
no, out of the East.
I never even talked about these.
Out of the East.
I never even talked about these. Don't put words in my mouth.
Yes, we
No,
did.
you did, Malik. You did say. You said. I remember explicitly. You said Brooklyn should be a contender in the East over.
Oh
Boston.
yeah, absolutely.
You said
absolutely.
That. Okay.
Absolutely. But I thought he was saying that I was saying that they were the favorites to win the championship.
No.
Like, what the hell are you talking about?
No, not the favorites of the NBA Finals. I'm just saying.
They're better than Boston even without James Harden. So let's get that out.
That's what I was saying. If everyone thinks that, so then why is James Harden going there? He wants to win a championship. So why are we going to just say this is okay? I don't understand that.
I mean, he did put the Sixers also on his wish list as well, and he wants to get out of a bad situation more than anything.
I think the biggest thing here is the team controls James Harden's destination.
No.
Yes, he does. Yes, they do.
So you're telling me
under contract for the next 2 years? What are you talking about?
So you're telling me if the
Timberwolves for a bag of chips?
So you're saying if the Timberwolves offer a trade,
that's
a terrific package.
At the end of the day, the Houston Rockets are gonna do what's best for the Houston Rockets.
Yeah,
that's what we're gonna do.
This is the thing that everybody's missing is that the Brooklyn Nets are in a position to give them a king's ransom.
Absolutely.
Not many teams are. Like it's not like he's just signing with the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are going to have to give away some serious depth, some serious draft compensation, and back to the depth that got them to the playoffs last year, the depth that everybody was so excited about for this team playing behind Durant and Kyrie.
So what I'm saying, Jake, what I'm saying is this is a rare situation where the Houston Rockets needs and wants match up and align with what James Harden's needs and wants may be. This is one of those rare scenarios. But you better believe that if a team came calling with more to offer, they would do that trade.
I think Philly has much more to offer. Philly has much more to offer.
It's just a matter of Philly's willing to part with it. Maybe Philly's not more as willing.
When we're comparing it to the KD situation, Daniel, let me know what the Warriors actually lost in order to get Kevin Durant.
They lost Harrison Barnes.
Harrison Barnes and Festus Ezeli were the most two notable drops. This Brooklyn Nets team, is probably going to lose 8 first-round picks. Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Joe Harris, Rodion Kurz. That's their entire depth.
You're going to the best spot to win a championship.
That's their entire core.
They might not even win.
Right.
They're not even going to win.
With 2 other superstars.
Ball dominant players.
Wait, time out.
Hold on.
Okay.
Jake, talk.
I'm not sure, if in the last 72 hours the rules of basketball changed. I'm under the assumption that currently you only play with one basketball. Now, of course, if anytime you add a 30-point per game scorer to a team, anytime you add a 1,000-yard receiver, a 40 home run hitter, they're going to be better. But you add James Harden to this team, I don't know how much better they get. They're going to get better, of course. It's James Harden. But there's one basketball. And this is why Houston failed. And just because you keep adding more superstars who are going to get the ball, I don't know how much better.
Is this the greatest trio to ever be assembled?
Jake, did you ever see Jake? Did you see the basketball the NBA 2K video somebody put out where it was like the Brooklyn Nets offense next year, and it's like Kyrie dribbling the ball like 30 times, and then they pass it to Kyrie. Kyrie's dribbling the ball like 30 times.
See,
That's great.
I agree with Jake to an extent because
Yeah.
Kyrie in his first season with the Celtics was a decent off-ball player. Kevin Durant can operate off the ball, and then
Yeah.
you have Harden as your primary ball handler. Harden used to be a good off-ball player. I don't think he can go back. It's just with all that he's been accustomed to in the D'Antoni system, he's not going back to being at least a tolerable off-ball player. But in terms of the fit, when you're matching up with the Lakers, they don't have anyone who could deal with Anthony Davis. And that's where I think the margin makes it so close. Because in terms of the fit, they're not the best basketball fit. And I think that's why you even have the Lakers as contenders. If they got a big man, if they got a star big man rather than James Harden, maybe that changes things. But it's the fact that they have 3 perimeter players matching up, and they don't have any big men to match up with AD.
I think from a pay like an on paper standpoint, I think what this is you're not just adding James Harden to a 25 point per game scorer in Kyrie and a 30 point per game scorer in Kevin Durant. I think you're adding James Harden as an upgrade over Kyrie Irving because I don't buy Kyrie Irving as an off ball player right now. So basically, you're upgrading Kyrie Irving into James Harden, and then Harden and Durant is going to be, your 1-2 punch, and that's going to be probably the best duo, if not second best duo in basketball. And then Kyrie as a a solid third piece. When the Cavs got Kevin Love was a sharpshooter, and he turned into he sat in the corner and he thrived in the first couple of years. I don't buy that Kyrie Irving can do that. Maybe he's willing to do that, but he has the defensive liability issues. He has the leadership issues, and I don't buy that he can just sit in the corner and be happy with it. I think it backfires.
It also makes Kyrie the reason why you even have Kyrie is to be an isolation scorer. That just makes him useless having him sit.
So guys, I want to keep it going. And yes, Tristan, AD staying. AD on the way. AD on the way. Come on, man, that's laughable. You need to be asking who are the Lakers going to bring sign as a third star, whatever the case may be. Anyway, we can keep it going. CP3 was traded to the Phoenix Suns. Pranav.
Not the Lakers, Malik. Not the Lakers.
Pranav, listen. In due time, baby. In due time. I told you. I don't know how. I don't know where. I don't know why. But CP3 gonna be a Laker one day. Someday, one day.
Hey, maybe he'll be the assistant coach when he's
right. I will be right
years,
at some point. I will be right at some point. But anyway, Pranav, what were your thoughts? CP3, point guard, as people call him, was traded to the Phoenix Suns. Do you approve of this move? What do you make of this move? Does this put Phoenix Suns square into the playoffs, or where do you see this happening?
Yeah, they're automatically into the playoffs with this move. I'm not sure if they're a top 5 team like everyone is quick to presume, but they're definitely in the playoffs. Probably one of the lower seeds. I have the Lakers, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Mavs, and Nuggets as the top 5. I think any order of those is probably the top 5 seeds. And then after that, the Suns are pretty easily one of the lower seeds with Chris Paul. I think you add another floor general, which allows Devin Booker to play off the ball. DeAndre Ayton is hugely going to benefit from this. You have Cam Johnson. I think the Suns can make a little bit of noise in the playoffs, just how Thomas is a troll.
Pranav, I have a question for you, Pranav. I was talking about this with a buddy of mine last week, and this was before Phoenix got Chris Paul. Is there a team in the Western Conference that you are 100% confident is going to miss the playoffs? And now after this move, I think the only team you can say that for is Sacramento. And they improved last year. I don't think there's a team in the Western Conference that you 100% are certain right now is going to miss the playoffs.
I mean, I hope my Oklahoma City Thunder would 100% miss the playoffs because I'm trying to tank right now. But once again, you added Ricky Rubio, you added Kelly Oubre. Those are good pieces. Maybe they could sneak into the 8th seed with a couple of injuries to other teams. You have teams like the Pelicans. Yeah, I mean, it's close. I don't really see teams like Minnesota, the Thunders of the world making it, but there's always a possibility depending on how that number 1 pick plays out. But in terms of the Thunder side of the deal, I think they also won this deal. I think it's a win-win for both teams because the Thunder got an unprotected pick after Devin Booker's contract expires, which that pick might be high if Devin Booker decides to leave Phoenix eventually. And then they have 2 other picks in that deal. And Kelly Oubre, he's not well, like Thomas mentioned, we could get to that later. But Kelly Oubre is a solid player, and you have Ricky Rubio. I don't know if he'll keep Ricky Rubio. We also acquired Danny Green in the Dennis Schroeder trade to LA. We also got another first rounder, so I think we could flip those two probably for another first rounder.
Is that official? That's not official yet, though, right? That hasn't been made official
yet, but it's all but done.
Yeah. No, I mean, let me just talk about the Phoenix Suns. I think here in Phoenix, it's been a crazy past couple of days because DeAndre Hopkins catch and the Chris Paul trade. A lot of people are upset that they gave up a lot, and I don't really get that. I just think that Chris Paul is going to. The biggest thing for the Suns is you have to keep Devin Booker in Phoenix. You have to keep Devin Booker in Phoenix, and this trade keeps him in Phoenix. This trade keeps him happy, and now you actually get a real shot at actually making the playoffs.
Mm.
I mean, they were tied with the 8 seed this year in the bubble. They just lost the tiebreaker to Memphis. So
8-0 in the bubble.
They went, and that was without Kelly Oubre. Essentially, just act like, okay, so you take Kelly Oubre out of the equation, he's gone anyway, but he was gone in the bubble. Replace Ricky Rubio, who is a good player. Replace Ricky Rubio with Chris Paul. That's a playoff team easily.
Yeah.
Look, I think can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
And similar to, I'm sure we'll touch on the Bucks soon. But I think it's clear the winners of both the Bucks Drew Holiday trade and the Thunder and trade. I think it's the Thunder clearly won that trade. And I think that the Pelicans clearly won that trade. I think, look, when it comes to the Chris Paul, he's 35. Yeah, a great year last year, but how sustainable is that for the next even 3 to 5 years, right? Frankly, I think that it's playoff or bust in Phoenix. They'll certainly make the playoffs. I just don't know how far they're going to go in a stacked Western Conference. And Phoenix gave up, in my opinion, too many assets for a 5-year-old player. Even though he's an incredibly good player, I think Sam Presti did what Sam Presti does, which is finesse teams for picks, right? So I think that's another example of that. And I think, I don't want to go too much into the Bucks, but I think let's just say Drew Holiday is not Anthony Davis, guys. Let's settle down with the picks and the trades.
In terms of the Drew Holiday trade, if we want to get into that right now, I think the Bucks did. Well, obviously the Bucks did give up a lot. 3 firsts, 2 pick swaps. Bledsoe, I'm not high on at all. That was just a throw in. Hill's a good player. But all of that for Drew, I'm one of the biggest Drew Holiday fans, but he's not really worth it because he's an impending free agent soon as well. You have Giannis, both of them can potentially leave, and that leaves Milwaukee just absolutely screwed for the future. And if they don't win the championship this year, I'm not even talking about make. If they don't win it, Giannis is out the door.
I agree.
I've got 2 more questions that we want to finish this thing off with. Pranav, I'm going to ask you this. Realistically, who do you expect the Los Angeles Lakers to add to their team? Do you expect Kyle Kuzma to be a Los Angeles Laker next year? Who do you expect the Los Angeles Lakers to add to the team? They've already got rid of Danny Green. That's one we all knew was coming. They got Dennis Schroeder,
which is a massive upgrade.
Massive upgrade. I mean, they say Rajon Rondo's leaving.
Yeah, because they got Schroeder, so he replaces Rondo.
So who realistically do you see joining the Los Angeles Lakers? And I know Jake wants to probably touch on this, so we can see our king get another ring this year.
I'm going to let Jake go to this one because I honestly don't really know the answer to this one. This free agency class is not really that great. Obviously, AD is returning, but in terms of the Lakers, probably just adding another perimeter defender, maybe get an Andre Roberson.
Maybe a Jeremy Grant.
I mean, maybe he wants a bigger role, probably somewhere else, like a Denver, if he just wants to stay there.
He's going to want more money too, right? I don't think the Lakers can afford him.
And the Lakers probably can't pay
but get a chance to actually, win a championship. So like, why not?
And but at the same point, he also has a chance to win multiple championships with Denver in the future. So, Jake, I'm going to let you touch on this one.
Yeah,
I bet you will.
I think so. Danny Green was a candidate for a sign and trade down the line. In addition to giving up that 2020 pick, which they aren't going to end up giving up. So it's tough. I think Dennis Schroeder is probably the only major move they're going to make other than re-signing Anthony Davis. Like that's the prime. Like that's their priority. They need to make sure Davis re-signs, which he will. I mean,
they're working on Dwight too. They're working on Dwight too. I know that.
Yeah, Dwight too. So all these veterans that signed 1 year, 2 year deals, to play with LeBron, all the chips fell right when LeBron signed, like JaVale signed and KCP and all these guys signed right after LeBron.
You love it.
So now it's the right. So the second wave is coming, and those players need to stay because they were pretty important, in the bubble down the stretch against the Heat. There were times where the Lakers' depth was seriously tested, and they were up to the challenge. So got to re-sign those players, But Dennis Schroeder is an upgrade. Like Dennis Schroeder is a borderline 20-point per game guy.
He should have won 6th Man of the Year. I'm still mad.
He's an upgrade. Resign AD, losing Danny Green. Like Danny Green was a starter. Like look, the Lakers are losing a starter in Danny Green, but Lakers fans don't like him because he went 0 for 7 in one game. But Danny Green was pretty solid. I'm not gonna lie. But
Achilles injury in the playoffs, but.
So I mean, I'm looking here. Like they're like. It's a Lakers fan base. They're looking at Fred VanVleet, Joe Harris, Montrezl Harrell, and I think all those players might be in play, but I don't think they do anything to majorly improve the roster other than getting that Dennis Schroeder, re-signing AD, and making sure that those role players that were really big down the stretch in Orlando stay with LA this year.
Okay, and the last question I want to ask is Pranav. I know you love talking about him. What's next for Russell Westbrook? Where does Russell Westbrook? No, excuse me. I'm gonna give the correct introduction. The former league MVP, Russell Westbrook, Pranav, right? The former most valuable, right? Pranav, the most valuable player.
On my Thunder, he was our franchise player.
Right. So your favorite player, one of your favorite players. Where does Russell Westbrook land? What's next for him, Pranav?
So the most untradeable player in the league is by far Russell Westbrook. Jake did mention on the show that when you usually add a 30-point per game scorer, your team generally gets better. However, Westbrook is that one exception where the team actually gets worse when he's on the court, and the team genuinely suffers. And you found the evidence. He was worse this year than they were last year when they had Chris Paul, and the Thunder. Which didn't have PG or Russ, got better with just Chris Paul. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Russell Westbrook does not make NBA teams better. He just wants a stat pad. And I think the best place he could do that is honestly someplace like Charlotte or New York. Personally, I'd like to see him in New York. Make the Knicks. I mean, I wouldn't find them relevant, but make the Knicks relevant in the media's eyes. You have this star.
Oh, my God. That would be a media dream. Russell Westbrook in New York. Oh, my God.
Because in terms of Charlotte, he could still stat pad, and you have Michael Jordan as the owner, but what is that really going to do? The Charlotte Hornets, do they really want to give up a top 3 pick for Russell Westbrook? I wouldn't. I think you would actually have to give up picks to go get Russell. No, you have to give up picks to get rid of Russell Westbrook. So I don't know what's going to happen with Westbrook. I would like to see him go to the Knicks. There's also been talks about the Wizards trying to go and get Russell Westbrook in a John Wall package.
Go ahead, Wizards.
John Wall is such an upgrade for the Rock, too, in my opinion.
I mean, I don't even know what
John Wall has played what? He hasn't played in 18 months, 20 months.
I know, but when he plays, pretty damn good.
It goes back to
he's fast.
It goes back to Max's point. Sam Presti is the absolute finesse god. He changed Russell Westbrook into 5 first-round picks, I believe 3 pick swaps, 1 all-star season of Chris Paul, Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, Jalen LeCue, and Ty Jerome.
And he did the same thing for Paul George. Paul George was out the door.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what Presti's been able to do with 2 of some of the worst playoff performers out of any star.
All right. Well, does anybody have anything else to add about Russell Westbrook other than Pranav's clear disdain for him?
Nope.
Well, guys, I think this was a great show. I want to thank James Rapien again for joining us on the show. I think this was a really fun show. Really fun show. It didn't feel like it lasted that long, but it definitely did. I want to thank you guys so much for joining into the Wrightway podcast each and every single week, live on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Make sure you guys go download the TWSN mobile app. Follow us on social media. All our social media handles are down below. Follow me at Wright Report on Twitter. Follow Daniel Almeida 11 on Twitter, even though he doesn't follow me anymore. Follow follow Jake Circus on Twitter. Follow Pranav Sriraman at Sports World Debates. Follow Max Marrero. Max is a big Twitter guy. He's the biggest Twitter guy. More than
biggest one on this entire podcast.
The biggest. He is bigly. He's the biggest Twitter guy, more than all of us, right? Make sure you guys again follow us on all our social media. TWSN on Twitter, TWSN on Instagram, and like I said, be on the lookout for more content, guys. The draft season is underway, and Jake's got some videos planned for the Wrightway Sports Network.
You wanted to talk about some W's or
some W's?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let
me tell you something. Listen. Unlike my Bengals, listen. W's are super hard to come by for my Bengals right now. They are. I'm honest with you. W's are super hard to come by for my Bengals right now. Sort of like the PS5s. And I know Pranav is super excited because he just recently got his PS5, and we're super excited for Pranav. He's got his big PS5. Pranav, just make sure you don't put your address anywhere because I'm sure people will be coming to pay you a visit. But anyway, all right, Tristan. See, Tristan's always got to take a joke, guys, and go overboard. Malika, Bengal fan. He doesn't know what a W is. But the Bengals have made the playoffs more than the Raiders in the 2000s. So I guess it's funny. Anyways, make sure you guys follow us on all social medias. We'll catch you here next week live on the Wrightway Podcast. And as always, guys, this show will go on. See you next week.
Lay. Sir.
Kane is in the building.
Alright, already the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun? Just remember when you come to the show.